Hi everybody, welcome to Boingo Bunny video tutorial where I am going to show you how to put together this cute little bunny. I love him. Anyway, he's super easy and so I'm going to walk you through step by step of how to assemble him. We're going to go through what you need in your kits, or what you will need, what you should have in your kits, and what other things that you'll need. Okay, so here we are with your kits. And what you should need in your kits, I'm going to go through each one of those really quick and just make sure you have what you need. All right, so again, this is for our Boingo bunny. All right, so this is your body and your head. So you'll need one of those. You'll have one long piece of fiber. That's going to be for wrapping all your arms and ears and feet. So you'll have a neck fur and a pink fiber for the socks. You should have two little leather rectangles. You should have a tag, a tail. You should have two little eyes out of clay. Some of them are darker colored, which is fine. That's just the clay cooked a little longer. Two little squares for eyebrows, two teeth, a couple buttons for the shoes. You'll need chalk. Well, this is what should be. And anyway, you'll have two wires for the ears. One wire is for the ears and one wire is for the arms. Then you also should have your frame, your armature of your wire that goes up inside the body. Should have flowers and then a little pink nose. If you didn't get a little pink nose, it's just a little pink fabric scrap. Or you can do it with blush on your nose also. Some of the things that you will need besides on your own, you're going to need obviously scissors and a glue gun and glue sticks right here. I used a fine tip Sharpie. This is to write spring on the tag, so you could write it with something else though too. That's not a big deal. But you're going to need some chalk. I use brown and pink, so blush and a brown like an eyeshadow if you don't have chalk. If you do like doing these kits and you think you would like to do more of them, I would suggest going to get some chalk. They have little packs that are like $5 for just different colors. Make sure it has black, brown, and pink though. You're also going to need some paint for your eye. So we're going to paint the eye white. Then you'll dot it with whatever color you want. I use blue, and then you'll black dot it for a pupil, and then a little highlight. You'll need stuffing to stuff him. I just use the end of a brush for you can brush it with this for the white, and then, but you can use any brush. And then I just use the end of it to dot it. You're going to need some thread with a needle right here. I use a large eye needle. That's helpful. They're called yarn darners, but you can get them at Walmart in a pack in their section. It's super easy. Okay, so that should be what you have in your kits. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get started. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take your body and you're going to trim off this extra selvage part of the neck area. You're not going to cut obviously through the seam, but you're just going to follow that shape all the way down. Give yourself, ½ inch that's not cut off. Sometimes, once in a while, you won't really need to here, but sometimes I like to snip. Hang on. Google, turn off timer. Sorry, I'm baking my clay eyes. Hey, Google, turn off timer. She scared me. Last night I was sitting here all by myself, and for some reason she must have picked up the sound on the TV or something, and she just yells out, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to find that," and it scared me to death. Anyway, lovely Google. Okay, so you're going to turn your head right side out. I just pull it apart. And so same with this. If you want, you can make a little snip in the neck area. This is bendable enough fabric, meaning it can be stretched, so it's not so bad. But when you do have an inward bend or an outward bend, if you snip it, not too, just close to the seam, but not through it, that'll just make it lay more how it's supposed to lay, rather than get all bunched up in the selvages. But you don't need to, because this should all be fine. But I'm going to turn this right side out. We're going to stuff both the head and the body. The body we're just going to do, we're not stuffing it like we normally do, because this armature goes inside. Armature is what you call a wire body that goes inside, but like wire, porcelain doll, not porcelain dolls, but sometimes if they're movable parts, they're called armatures inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff the body of this. So and a little bit in the neck area, but I am going to stuff it. I do want this this will come in like this. This is how it's going to sit. This armature, that's the head. That goes up inside the head. So this will slide down onto here and mostly go on the neck. This will mostly stick to the upper body, and then we're going to gather it up like that. But I do want to stuff the body of this. If you want to put it through there and stuff on the front and back, because I do want the wire to be in the middle. You can kind of see how this wire is gone up the middle. You don't want it to be on the front and have all the puff in the back, or vice versa, have it in the back and have all the puff in the front. You do want it to be centered in the center. So if you feel like you want to take stuffing and go put your wireframe inside there, then go stuffing on the front, and then maybe go stuffing on the back, that's okay too. You do want the body to be pretty firm. I mean, as much as you can. It is a little bit more dainty than some of our other projects. So, meaning it's not always, with wire, it's not always very reliable, and you're going to have to fiddle with the feet to make it stand up. I just thought it would be kind of fun to try something different. You could position them to sit down. You could position them to like sit on something, or, you know, whatever. So I thought it was kind of fun to try something a little bit different rather than a wood frame. Obviously, I'm going to go need to grab some more stuffing, but we're going to stuff our body and our head. The head will be stuffed nice and firm, and you're going to go ahead and go all the way down the neck with this one. Let me just make sure on that one. Yeah, all the way down the neck. What we're going to do is we're going to sculpt these eye sockets and a little bit of a mouth and try to get a little bit of the nose to protrude out. So let's go ahead and stuff the head nice and firm, and the body also. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished stuffing my body. You can see that the wire is in the center, and there's fullness on both sides. So I left a little bit sticking up for the neck to go on. This, by the time I finish, I didn't fill all the way to the bottom, because I will stitch it closed and it will get shorter in length. Because you do want to make sure that you see his little legs and his shoes and socks. Also, his neck's going to, so it's going to look a little bit like this. This is going to come down, and it'll go about halfway down the neck, okay? And then this will come up a little shorter. So when I stuffed my neck, or my head, I did reach in, and I tried to push the nose area out. I just wonder if I'm getting a reflection off of this. Probably not. Okay, so I reached in and I pushed up right here with my nose to try to get a little bit of a bulge. It is important to do it as much long as you can, like a longer oval face rather than a short round face, because this will allow more space for the teeth and the nose and the eyes for us to do the sculpting. But I would like if you could make it a little bit bulgy right here for a little bit of a face sculpture. Okay. So, and then you will stuff down the neck a little ways. I didn't quite get all the way down there, but that's going to go on about halfway down the neck. So the neck will have to be firm. I'll just do that in a second when I get on. Let's go ahead and sculpt the eyes right now. So you're going to take your needle and thread. You're going to double thread it. This is probably the shortest that you're going to want. This was just already on my thread. So, all right, pick the space where you've got the bulge. Now remember, the eyes are going to be covered with the little eyeballs. So we're going to start and we're going to make puckers right here. I'd like the bridge of the nose to be wider rather than too narrow together. So wider's better. I'm going to start here because by the time I pull it together, I'll still have a wider bridge of the nose. You see that? And do you see how it came in? And then we're going to try to make it a little bit angled so that it comes down. All right, so I'm going to start here at the eyes. The nice thing about stitching is if you do make it a little bit too narrow or it looks weird, before you glue everything on, you can just take it off. I'm going to adjust this just down just a little bit. Okay. All right, so I made my first stitch, and I'm going to go back through, but I don't go in the same hole. But I go maybe just a little bit off it, just so it doesn't pop back through. Don't hit the same hole as the knot. Come back through and kind of give it a tug. You can kind of see from here how big your bridge is going to be, and I think that looks about good. So I'm going to go back in one more time, not in any of the same places, just somewhere else, because this gives it a little bit more tightening. then you don't have to hold it. If you go through 3 times, 1, 2, and then 3, look how it holds by itself. So I like that better. So then I can just kind of, if I wanted to, I could hold my eyes up, even though they're not painted. I could just hold them up and see if you wanted to, if it doesn't matter. Because your eyebrows or your eyelids actually help shape those. So I could kind of just see how close it's going to be together. So I might be able to cinch that just a little bit more. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just do a quick knot, but I'm not going to cut it off. I'm just going to go ahead and reach down and start doing my mouth. So on my mouth, what I'm going to do is I'm trying to make a little smile. But since how I don't just stitch it right in a row, I'm going to go up. I'm going to come up out the eye, back down, up, out the other eye, back down, because I'm trying to pull this up, if that makes sense. So if you're matching up to your head right here, so we've got our eyes. So my mouth's going to go kind of just where you would normally think a mouth would go. But I'm going to go down through just in my eye socket because that's going to be hidden. I'm going to come out just about maybe the top of my smile. Meaning I'm going to start maybe here, and I'm going to come right along here, like that. So let's just try to come out right as much as I can, right there. And remember, I'm trying to go up with it. So I take a little stitch and come back up through the eye socket, deep enough in here so that that eye is going to get covered by it. So I don't want you to have it be super down here a little bit too low, and then your eye not cover it, because then that's going to be weird. I don't want it to be weird. All right, so I'm going to pull, I'm going to let you watch to see how I get ready to pull it. And when I pull it, it kind of goes up. So I'm going to work my way right along here to come up. Okay. And sometimes I just flip it back up and down. So I'm going to lead ahead of myself. I'll lead ahead where I want to come out at. And then I'm going to come back through. So it's like a little bit of a back stitch. You'll keep wanting to keep it pulled tight because you want that to keep, the cinch up. I'm going to go crossways this one. Give it a pull. You can kind of see it gathering up there. Back down. Lead myself with the needle. Go back down right at the spot. Right in a row. Come back up. This is helpful. I'm not sure if you can even see. As I pull, because it doesn't have to be giant. You just want a little bit of a crack. So I'm making this type of a shape. Okay, let's go down. I think I can just do one more here. So maybe like 4 stitches. I do want it to be kind of even. I'm running out of thread, so I'm only going to be able to come up in the hole where I left from the last part and come up. This is called a back stitch. So if you can't figure it out, you could look it up, but it's basically like leading the way with your thread and coming back in the last hole. Lead the way with the thread, back through the last hole. Lead the way with the thread, back through the last hole. All right, so you can kind of see right there. Create a little bit of a nose, and you can also use your fingers, and you can use, when I don't have that needle hooked on there, you could use another needle if you have no nose, and you could just reach in and kind of pull up that stuffing to kind of, because that that hole will dissolve. Okay, so I am out of space and I don't have enough space to tie it. So I'm going to give it a little tug. I'm going to put a little dab of glue, not a lot, because I don't want to, I still want to make sure I get it chalked up and stuff. And then I just use that to hold my, then I can cut this off. Make sure that glue's tight enough. Plus I'll have glue on there in a minute, but I just use that for right now. All right, so this is our face. Oh, I forgot to do the little nose thing while I have my thread. Okay, well, let's do that right now while I'm thinking about it. I forgot to do, but I do like this to be single thread. So you can do double on everything else, but this one's better to do single, so this one will work. I should just maybe do it when I have my whiskers, but I want to chalk before. Well, I could do that too. All right, so I'm going to come out the eye socket again. Come down right at the center of the mouth and coming up to the nose area. So you're just going to come out. It can be either one of those, but you want to get it in the center. And it's not super gigantic. It's just up here to the nose area, right there. Come back out. Kind of like that. And I didn't really pull this tight. That's just for looks. Okay, I'm not even going to knot that because I don't want to get too many knots here. I'm going to do that. Put a little dab of glue to hold that in place. Okay. All right, so we're good with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and set that aside, and I'm going to wrap my arms. I'm going to grab that really quick. All right, so now we are going to go ahead and wrap our arms, legs, and ears. So one of these is your arm. The other one is your ear. And I think they're pretty darn close the same size. No, I lied. The longer one is going to be your ears, and the short one is going to be your arms. So and then think about this. For your ears, let's say that's going to be your ears. Before I do any kind of bending, the idea is you're going to go poke a little tiny hole, poke a little tiny, tiny hole. If you snip it too big, it makes it a lot harder. I ended up on mine was actually slit when I did the sewing of mine. I laid mine inside of it and then stitched it closed like this. You can see that. But when I sewed your heads, so you can kind of see how I stitched that closed right there. When I did your heads, I just sewed it all. So if you want to slit it open and slide it in there and give it a good hard gluing, that's okay too. But I thought this might be a little bit easier to just poke it through the other side, bring it in so it's inside already. Then we can, once we wrap it, you can't wrap it before, obviously. Once we wrap it, then we can give it some glue and hold it up in place. But okay, arms, we're going to bend each end over. This one's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to bend an hand like that on both sides. Like that. And then we're just going to wrap all the way up and around. So that's pretty self-explanatory. When it comes time for the legs, we are going to start at the ankle right here. We're going to wrap just up, maybe like a few inches or so, making sure that as long as you get up underneath here, far enough, you're good to go. Because remember, if it's going to shorten up a little bit, I just want to make sure I wrap all those. Then ears, you're going to do the same thing. I start at one side and I just wrap. And then I started with a little bit of glue. I wrapped all the way up, ended with some glue. Now this fiber is really cute in the way that it picks apart. The thing that you're going to try not to do is show any wire. So you can kind of see where some wire peeks through a little bit, but it's pretty easy to cover and fill in the space of it. Another thing that works pretty good is if you run short and you have a little spot, it's so cottony and fibery that you can kind of pull off some. And like I had some spot here on the hand that was showing, and I just had some extra and I just wrapped and just glued it right there. It fits really nice. So on this big piece of fiber, you're going to tear it in half as equally as you can and kind of be gentle with it because it does fray. So I'm going to tear half of it. Okay, let's set that aside. Tear another half of it. Tear this in half one more time. Trying to get the same amount of stuff on each one. Okay, and I'm just going to start with this. This is plenty you can kind of see how it just shreds apart. So I'm going to be really carefully. I'm going to leave one of it for, I think you end up having plenty. We're going to just start wrapping, but if we need to, we can split it in half again because I'm not going to use the same amount on my legs as I am on my ears. So I'm just going to start wrapping. I'm going to start with my arms first because that's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like this is a little thick for my arms, so I'm going to take this other piece that's already, I'm going to already take it in half again because it feels like it needs to be. All right, so I'm going to put a little dab of glue to start off on my hand. That kind of helps hold it. And then I just kind of get the first piece in there. Touch. And just kind of carefully just Wrap it. And you can spread it apart as you wrap to get that long, kind of see that right there? And I kind of hold that once I get wrapping. If you get any weird spots that stick out, just kind of rub it together. Part way through, you can put a little dab of glue to kind of hold it in place. Like before I start out, I think I'm going to put a little dab of glue right here. Kind of hold that. And I'm just going to twist this for a minute, just see how that works. It works pretty good. Spread that out. I'm just twisting my wire. And going slower if it starts to thin out a little bit. There's going to be more than one way to do this if you find another way that works good. This is the great part about learning how to craft and doing stuff like that, is you can just make it whatever works for you. Okay, so you can tell I'm probably not going to make it to the end here, so I'm just going to keep elongating it. So meaning I'm going to not go short, I'm going to go long. Spread that out, see if I can make it get there. I might make it. Plus, if you're careful and you tug on it just a tiny bit, you can make it stretch a little farther. It's like magic. All right, so I'm getting here to the end, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue so I can kind of make it start holding. And then you'll have to glue again as it gets closer here. Again, just a little bit, and just be careful not to burn yourself, because the stuff is going to be a little bit thin. And I think that's okay for me, because I like to have the little edges show like that. Just kind of looks cute. And if you find any spots that are feeling like they're coming apart, just kind of go back in and glue, or else just get another little piece of fiber and just kind of wrap it around. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. Let's go with our feet. For the purpose of doing this, I'm going to just slide my body up just out farther than I need to, just because I'm pulling it out. I'm pulling this fur down so I can have a little bit better view of what I'm looking for here. All right, I'm going to start at the ankle. Probably don't even need to start as low as the ankle, but it gives us a good spot. At first view, you're going to want to wrap decently tight so it gets, into place. So this piece that's kind of just wigging out right here, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue and see if I can get that to go down. Slide down a little bit. I feel like I'm get you at the right perspective. I have my camera on a hat, so just so you know, I look really fabulous. But I was trying to get a good perspective so you guys could see it, but Okay, I think that one got a little tight on that one. It's gonna. So I feel like as I'm getting to the top here, it's getting a tighter fit. I'm just gonna glue that down here now. Okay. All right. Start this one. I think you guys get the gist of it. Maybe I should do it this way. Might be better. I think this. Maybe I don't know which way is going to work best, but Maybe I'll turn it like this. Again, there's going to be a better way to do this, but okay, so that gets to the very end. Make sure it glues down so it doesn't slide around. To the wire, remember? That's where it needs to go. Don't try not to get it stuck to any fur, or not any, but like it's not securing to stuffing or the body. So just make sure it's glued off to the leg. And we're going to snip that off. I am going to leave this, even though this is not that greatly wrapped right here, I'm going to give it more secure on the wire, but I'm going to leave it because it's going to have a sock and a shoe around it. So I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so I've got those done. Let's go ahead and move to the ear. All right, so I decide where I wanted to go. I poke the tiniest, I snip the tiniest little hole. Snip right there. I'm going to poke it through with one end, and then kind of look at it and see where it wants to come through. I can see it wanting to come through right here. If you can't poke it through, which I don't know if you can or not, we don't want to. And we want it to be the tiniest little opening. There we go. Slide that all the way to the middle so it looks like it's got these little antlers. Then the upper parts right here, we're going to bend down a good amount, like that, make them cross. But the other one I want to make it so that they're not perfectly even. They do look a little even, but what we'll do is we'll just make them a little bit uneven here. You can kind of see how from when I look at this, oh, I need to make them up here a little bit higher. Because they are going to be bending like this. Boop, boop. So we don't want it to, it's about, I don't know, maybe like a, you do want to just have a little end, an end of it right here. Okay? I'm gonna bend it just once I get it wrapped. I'm gonna wrap this guy, pull it apart. I'm going to start right here at the top. Spread open this fiber. This one you wrap a few more times just because you want it to fill up this whole little space up here at the top. Not worrying about fraying it yet because that will happen later on. And as I wrap it, I do want to make sure it stays fairly firm. It's not like cinched off so tight, but you don't want it to also be just flopping around, meaning the fiber on the wire. So I'm going to get it close to this edge here. I'm not going to glue it yet, but I am going to be gluing this wire, fiber and the wire to the head when I'm ready. Okay, so I do want to make sure I have enough space right there. While I'm doing it, I guess I could go ahead and put a little dab of glue or some glue so that it's touching the wire, sliding it, making sure it's touching the head. And when I move it in and out, that wire coats itself, then attaches to the fabric of the head. Hold it in place while I'm going to wrap this around it to kind of secure it. It's almost like, if needed be, I could put a little dab of glue around the fabric of the head so that that touches it and kind of sticks on there. At this point, I'm going to probably pull that pretty tight. I can feel it getting hot. That's good. That means it's adhering. Maybe press it a little bit against the scalp. So carefully, I'm going to just snip this part off. And then I'm going to maybe lightly press those back down into there. Okay, so that should work. All right, I'm going to take that other side. Let's see, I think I'm going to, that's not very thick. Let's try this. I'll use a double. I'll add to it. All right. I'll just let, I don't know if you guys need to watch me do this or not. You probably got it by now, but, ooh, touched right on there. Isn't smart? Okay, so now that one ends up just having these little things anyway, just because I wrapped it. I'm just going to leave those because then I won't have to pick any of them out. I'm going to switch over to this other thin one. A little bit of glue on the wire. Kind of wrap that. I just did that to kind of pinch this in here a little bit. Give it a better shape. This wire is obviously, or this fiber is a little bit thinner. I might just want to, I think I'm going to start with this other one. This one's too little. Start with a little bit bigger one. You should have plenty, so use it how you'd like. Once I get this wire halfway in, I'm not going to flop it around like I did before. I don't want to loosen up that space. I don't want to loosen this part up. So I'm just going to hold it and wrap this fiber around it so it's not flopping all around. Okay, so I'm going to finish that up. And then we will move on to I think we're going to be jumping to, let's do the shoes. And then we'll put the head on very last, maybe. I'll finish this up and let you see. Okay, well, I might have enough space here. It's a little too tight. I don't like that look. Okay, I'm going to put a little dab of glue and make it be, I'm going to take some of my extra stuff that's more fibery. Cottony, I guess, maybe. This stuff is kind of fun to use. Okay, so I'm back. I had a little break for a second there, and someone was knocking at my door. All right, so we've finished our head. I've bent my ears. You can kind of fray up a little bit of those tip tops, just kind of how you like it. I made sure I glued it here so that those ears don't shake back and forth. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to close this bottom. I do want to make sure that it's going to look about the right size. So that's going to stick down into, let me lift my camera up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch close this bottom. Before I stitch it closed, I do want to make sure that the fabric is actually glued to the legs. So what we do is we just can't, we can stitch it closed, but we have to make sure that it glues right here so that when you go to lift up, it doesn't just slide right off the wire. So I'm going to put some glue down here, and I'm not going to do it too low because I want it's going to come up a little bit higher. Okay, so I'm going to glue that on both sides so that it's secure. And then I'm going to use my needle and thread, double threaded, and I'm going to stitch it together. So I've glued those two on the sides. Then I'm going to just go ahead. I've knotted my thread, and I'm just going to stitch it closed. So I just kind of hug this last little area, like right around the ridge. And I try to keep my thread up high because it gets caught in the fabric, in the fur. So I come in and out. Oh, I've got it in glue. Gosh dang it. That's the worst. Try never to get your needle through glue. It will make it so hard. It won't be able to ever go through anything else again. Unless you have to totally clean it off. All right. So I'm going to go I'm just going through one side and out the other side. And I hold my thread up as much as I can once I poke that out there, just so it doesn't get tangled in the thread or in the fur, as much as possible. Give it a cinch. Let's go around and around. This is looking a little awkward, meaning you're probably having a hard time following where I'm going with it. But I'm basically coming in one side, I catch the top of the fur or the top of the fabric, out the other side, pull it around, cinch it around, just loop, 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 loop until you're all done. But I'm kind of moving it around a lot, so it might be a little hard to follow where I'm going. And again, I try to keep the thread up so it doesn't get caught in the fur. I'm going to stitch that closed. Again, making sure it's secure. It's not going to slide off those legs. Okay. That feels pretty good. I'm going to do one more right here, just make sure it's tight. Okay, knot it off. Okay, snip that. I'm just going to make sure that's glued in there pretty good. Okay, so that should be ready to go. You can kind of see how I... All right, so I know it doesn't look that great right now, but we'll be manipulating these feet in just shortly. Oh, well, at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to slide the head on. I'm going to either go down the back, wherever you can get it, that wire down, maybe down the back side. It's going to tuck into your... Tuck it down into the body. Remember, you do want the neck to be filled out with fur stuffing so that it can hold itself up. I'm just tucking that down there, clearing out a little space for it. Worst case scenario, if your neck is just too full, it doesn't seem to fit down in there, you could take a little bit of stuffing out if you want to. All right, so that's a little high, but you could still make it come up that high. Just wedge it down as much as you can to how you like it. It's cute to have a little neck sticking up, so don't feel like it has to go down super far because you've got your little fur that goes right around here. I want to make sure that it looks so just how you like it, because it could be stick up a little long neck if you want. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to go ahead and glue back here to make sure my head is glued to the wire of the neck. So I'm going to reach down here I'm going to reach back there till I can find the fabric. Actually, it's pretty far down there, so I should have done that before. But I'm going to make sure that that is glued down in there and slide that down inside there. It doesn't actually have to glue to the wire as long as it glues to the fabric around the neck hole, because we don't want that sliding up. So I'm going to glue right around the rim. That's probably easier. So just glue the neck to the fabric right around the neck hole, making sure that's secure on there, right on the neck hole. Let that dry. Then we're going to go ahead and put on the brown fur around the neck. Well, let's put the arms on first before the brown fur. All right, so arms, you're going to just take it right in half. And I'm just going to glue that right about the back of the neck, okay? So I just put some glue right here along the back. Make sure it touches the neck of the head, not the fur. I mean, it can touch the fur, but it's going to be secure to the head, the back of the head, right here. Let that dry. Then we will put on the neck fur. I don't know why this is. There we go. Maybe it's a little bit better. You can see I cut my wall out, and there's a bedroom right there, and this is my entryway, and I cut my wall out. It's in the process. I'll have to show you later on, but it's gonna be cool. It's what you do when you're empty nesters. You get rid of all your little bedrooms that you have. All right, so I'm off the subject here. Okay, let's take our fur, little brown fur. It's gonna go right around the neck. I just tuck under the little edge and then just glue it back there. You should have a plenty, so just fill out the neck area and just make it. It doesn't have to be super tight. You can make it be a little bit bigger, meaning have some space around it. I guess making it come, instead of being a tight neck, it just can be fill out and make it a little bit bigger around. Put that up there. So I've just glued this here in the back. And it can come up the neck and fill out and help support the neck. And so you can see how I have more here. What I'll do is I'll turn that under and I'll just make it be a little frayed collar. Just kind of make sure you tuck that little edge under though, so you can, gosh, I'm not doing very good, sorry. So I'm just glued right around the neck, making sure I tucked under that edge, and then that part can fray out. I can also lift it up and tack it down just a little bit under there. So it's pretty secure. Okay. And it's cute to have it be flippy out. I'm going to just reach in and secure it right by here. Just a few spots around the neck, making sure it's stuck to the fur. All right, let's move on. I'm taking too long chit-chatting here. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we basically have the eyes to do and the shoes. So let's just pluck along at it. We'll start with shoes. Let me step up and grab these. Let's work our way around here. Sorry, I had to get that. Okay, so you've got these two rectangles. One's each shoe, okay? The length of it's going to go, let's see, I think it goes this way. So you can kind of see the length of it goes like that, and here. Part of this comes up, and part of this goes down. So just kind of work it. If you feel like your foot's too long for your piece, you can bend it and fold it back, or fold it back under so it's just not quite so long. But it should fit on the long part. You have a little bit of a cuff, I guess. Like this, comes up a little bit and then wraps down around. So, and then we've just folded it over. If you've noticed, it just folds and folds. So let's just do this. Let's start with the back here. I'm going to flip this so this is a nice straight edge. It looks like I can go to about right here. So I am going to go ahead and lay this, let's see, flat down like that. Just going to give it a little bit of glue just to kind of help me hold it in place. That's right where I kind of thought that was going to go right there. Okay, so then I am going to fold this over. Let's see, I'm going to fold it this way. fold that back. I'm just going to do that for a minute while I'm folding. And then we just kind of fold this over. It's just more of just like a pucker. I don't know if it's, there's not really a right and a wrong way, but you kind of fold one side over. So you've got this little boot cuff, and then you're going to fold the other one. You're trying to create a point right here. I'm going to fold it, kind of like that, and then cuff the cuff. And then I'm going to tack a little bit of glue under there, and then you can kind of see how it's just wrapped. So I started the thread, and I just wrapped it to kind of make it look like it's laces, but you can see how it's just folded over. And then the button's on the outside edge. So let's just go ahead and glue this a few places. I'm going to put a little bit of here and here. I'm going to make a point with my toe, so let me just make a little bit of glue there. Point with the toe. I'm just going to fold this over a little bit more, like that. So then you can kind of see how they've got this little cuff here. And it doesn't all stay together with the glue because the glue doesn't really glue very well to this. I'm just going to give it a little bit of glue. Then I'm going to take my thread. So the way I did this, I took a good amount. Sorry, I have it in my mouth here. And just start wrapping it. Like, tuck a little bit of glue if you want, but you don't want the glue to show, so be careful. So you can take some, leave a little edge hanging out right here, and then just kind of start with one side and just wrap it. And wrap it strategically to kind of, however you want it. It just looks like a little, it's easier to hold one side and then just keep wrapping the other side. So I'm going to switch gears here, like right here, so you can see it. Is that easier to see? Okay, so I'm starting with one. I'm going to hold it here. Let me just show you one more time. Then I take my other side, which is longer, and I'm just wrapping. I'm going to go down a diagonal, okay? And then as I cut back across the toe, I'm going to maybe go up. So then it looks like it's crisscrossy. I might wrap it a couple times around the ankle, just to kind of give it some look. And then I use that other side that I've already been sitting here, and I just tie that together with the one side that was sitting there, not doing anything. Tie it on the side if you'd like. I mean, this is what makes it look like it's laces. You're going to always knot it first. So tie it and knot it. So the trick now is to make sure you try to duplicate that same thing. Oh my gosh, I can't get that through there on the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and knot it one more time. So I think you could tie a bow at this point. Tie a bow. Not sure, let's tie a bow. Or just whatever you want. Remember, whenever we tie a bow, we adjust the bow part so that it's the height that you want it. Tiny bit of dab of glue in the center, just enough, almost just the residue of the glue to kind of hold that, and then I snip off some of the things. All right, let's try that one more time. I'm going to do it this way. Maybe that might be, I don't know which is the best way to show you. Okay, so that's kind of what we did. Let's try the other foot. I'm holding it up, making sure that the tip comes out here and I have enough space. So about right there. I'm going to hold that for a second so I can kind of get an idea of where. I'm just doing this. This helps me keep it a little bit in place. All right. I want my fold. I'm going to try to mirror this side. I made my fold go to the outside edge, even though my sample went to the inside edge. It doesn't matter. Just do the same thing. Whichever way you do it, do the same thing on this foot. Okay, so I'm going to go point to my toe first. Then I fold this one over. Then, I just let that fall for a second. Then I use this side, bring it up. So this is my point of my toe. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue here, kind of help hold that in place. So I'm going to bring up the point of my toe, okay? Then I'm going to fold over this edge. So you end up with a little crease right across the toe edge. Okay. And then that just kind of folds around. Put a little bit of glue in here. Remember, you're going to have the top of your pink fluff around the edge, which will cover a lot of that. Okay, so I'm holding that for just a minute. Excuse me. Grab my thread again. And this is where you're going to get a long enough piece, remember? All right. I take one side, and I'm going to just knotted my fabric. Dang it. Okay. I leave myself a spot right here on the outside edge. I got to remember to do it mirrored. Leave it on the outside edge. Then I'm going to wrap it one way, wrap it down. Kind of hold under all that stuff. I try to just do it one-handed. Cross across the toe, then angle back up to make an X, okay? I ran out of thread, so I might need to do that differently, but you can see where I made X's. I angled down, cross the toe, and then angled back up. And then right here is where I'm going to join up, since I'm short on one side, with my thread that I had holding on the whole time in my hand. Tie a little knot, and then a bow. Okay, so then I will also put the button here, adjust the bows, give it a little tight, a little dab. Okay, then I'm going to adjust the, on here I put the button right here just to make it look like it's buttoned over. You can see I ran thread up and inside there just to kind of make it look like it's stitched on, even though I did glue it. Then I'm going to wrap these things and glue it right around the back. Okay, let's see. And then also, you'll want to use these just to kind of make sure you can dab a little bit of glue back in here. It's probably a good idea. Glue it to the back of this base to kind of, or back to the wire, so it will hold up to the back of the heel, right there on both those wire. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this guy, wrap it around the top part. It can be furry enough so it's fluffy. Looks like about that much. Or you're going to want to cut it in half. So for sure cut it in half first, then you'll know how much to work with. And just bring that around. Glue it together. Make sure it attaches to the back of the leg on the wire. Maybe a little bit of glue to hold that together. Making sure that glues to itself. Okay, then we're going to move on to, we need to paint the eyes, and then we're just going to glue on this tail right here. While we're waiting, we've got our little tail made. Find your spot that you want it. Make sure it's in the center, that's important. Right there. Clear yourself a little bit of a space. I part the fur just because that always makes it glue to the body a little bit better than the fur. Okay. So then we're going to just fix those little feet. You can glue them down to fit however you want them. They can attach a little bit more to the front of the sock, to the front of the shoe, front of the shoe. So it looks even. Love that fur. Okay. And then you're just going to manipulate that to stand. So you manipulate the legs and the feet and the leaning of the body and sometimes even the arms to get that to stand up. So that will be something fun that you get to work on. And then make sure that foot lays flat. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to paint these eyes. I'm going to take them and I'm going to paint them all white. Let them dry. Then you're going to take your brush, the back handle of your brush. Where's my brush? And I'm going to dab. I'll show you. So I painted them all white. And then with the back of the brush, I dabbed blue, but then I also circled it. If you can see it, it's not totally perfect, but I did blue. Let the blue dry. And I did angle that a little bit. I didn't do it right in the center. I did it a tiny bit inward, just enough that it makes them look realistic. So you're going to dot blue, large dot, then let that dry. Then you're going to dot black on the inner side of the blue. Let that dry. Then a tiny bit of white. You can use the very lightly the very end of the brush with the end of the same thing that you've been doing the other ones, but just make sure it's a tiny little bit, or you can use something else that's a little bit tinier. This is the sparkle in the eye. So you're going to dab that at the top corner or somewhere on one of the corners like that. So that they're a little bit different, or preferably both of them up on this top edge right here. This one I didn't. I must have twisted the ear around, or the eye around. We're going to cut out a little tiny triangle for the nose. We're going to get ready, and then we're going to chalk these. We're going to chalk right in here. Let me just do this really quick while I've got it. Okay, so we've got our brown chalk. I'm going to chalk the eye sockets into a circle. You're going to make sure this is larger than the eye. So whatever your size your eye is, do it larger. You're going to get that inner eye and make sure it comes to the bottom. That's the only part that really shows is here and then around that bottom side. So right along the bridge of the nose and along the bottom of the eye. The rest of it is covered by the eyebrow. Oh, excuse me, the eyelid. So kind of make sure that looks even. All right. Then I'm going to carefully chalk right up inside the mouth line. You don't want it to be super dark and weird, but you want that to show some shading in the mouth. Then with my blush, or my pink chalk, I'm going to basically chalk the cheeks. Now you could go crazy, more crazy, I guess, with the chalk, the brown chalk, and go up and around there if you want, but I'm just going to keep it simple for that right now. I'm going to wait on the nose. I'm going to paint those. I'm sorry, I'm getting on my last little accessories. Okay, so I've gathered my teeth. I got my teeth ready. I'm going to put my eyes in before. I'm going to write spring on the tag. Just spring. I'll show you how I wrote this so you can kind of see it. Where is it? There we go. Spring. I'm going to glue in my teeth right there. Put my nose on. I'll show you how to do the eyes. This is your thread. You just double thread it, pull it through, snip it off. But I put a tiny dab of glue, tiny, up inside there so you don't see it. Just what's on the tip of your gun. Don't squeeze it so that doesn't click out. Also, another little tip that I did is I took my brown chalk, rubbed it in my fingers, and I just kind of touched these so they were just a tiny bit off color. Depends on what you have. When I got ready to, I'm going to put my eyes in first, but I'm on my eyebrows. I cut them into, you have this certain size, but cut it as large as you can. That means don't cut off any extra. I'm making like a little arch, but I'm only cutting off the top edge to make it rounded. We're starting with it big, and if you feel like you need to cut it small, you can. But make sure that whatever way it goes, you do the largest space, meaning you want the biggest diameter, like the width of it. I take my chalk, so I've got these two little arches. These are going to be the eyebrows when I'm ready, like that. Sorry, eyelids. I take my chalk, I go right along the straight edge. So this is the one that's going to touch right by the eye. So I go right along the edge, like that, both of them. Okay, well, I leave those for a minute for me to get those. Okay, so I'm going to go paint my eyes. All right, so let's check which one I'm filming this. Okay, so I've got the eyes painted. As you can tell, like I painted them both white. Then I painted them, I dotted them a larger dot blue, let that dry. Then I dotted them black for the pupil, and then a tinier small dot of white as an accent highlight. So I've got that. Then let that all dry. Then you saw that I chalked the sockets and chalked the mouth. So we're going to go ahead and glue those in. I placed them how I wanted them so I could see it's going to go like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put some, all right, so put some glue there. And I try to make it tuck into that corner of the bridge of the nose. like that. Okay. Then I've got my eyebrows or my eyelids already cut. So that they seem to be a little large. I may trim them down up here. But what we're looking for is we're trying to go halfway above the eye to the head like that. We're going to glue that around. I might trim this down just a little bit. It's a little bit tall. Keep the width, but maybe just a little bit of the height off of it. All right, so let's go that again. I want the eye to show, so I'm going to kind of go like that. So I'm going to take my eyelid, put a little bit of glue around the outside edge of it, rest it back down on top, and before I push it down, I'm going to just adjust it. If your eye's bigger, that's totally fine. Just these eyes are a little bit smaller than some of them. I just made sure it goes here in the center, and then you can cup it around the eyeball itself. So. Sometimes you just cup it right around the edge of that eyeball. It's a little tall too. And you kind of want them to be a little droopy. It's kind of like that. Okay, so triangle nose out of this little scrap. Again, like if you don't have this, or if you've dropped it, because it does get lost pretty easily. It gets stuck inside your, inside the bodies or whatever. It's easy to lose. Just if you have a little scrap of pink of something, thread would work. You could just blush it a little bit, but I just have this little pink felt here. I cut it into a triangle, and then I rounded off the little edges. I'm just going to go right there on top of the nose, or on top of the white line. So it looks like that. And it's a little triangle. Remember, it kind of goes, the point of the triangle goes down. Then I'm going to take my needle again. I'm going to put thread in it, make sure I'm going to go in and out for the whiskers, double thread. So I'm going to do that really quick. Then we're going to fold our arms and we're going to put on the flowers. So I've got double thread. And I'm just going to go through, this is what I'm going to do, just kind of make it two separate spots. Pull that through. So I just go in right here, out, kind of make it, try to make it even. I pull till I get the desired length. I'll just trim that enough. Okay, that looks, I think that's about right. I'm going to make that, there you go. I'm going to come through again. Same thing. They don't have to all be the same size. You can make them one shorter, one longer. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. Okay. So then I'm going to take my chalk a little bit in my fingers, rub it together, and I'm just going to just make it a little bit off colored so it's not. Okay, so I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm just going to touch just quickly and lightly where that is on one side so that doesn't come out very easily. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put in the teeth. Got the two little teeth here. Line those up so that they look normal. And I'm going to put some glue right on the back side of them. I'm just going to make them look like two little front teeth. There's all different kinds of teeth, so some of them look like anteriors. None of them are giant, but they're all about the same size. Some of them have just a little different shape to them. Sorry, I keep getting it down low enough. So I've glued that. I'm just going to put them in like little buck teeth. these are hard, they're easy to lose too, so be careful. Not too much glue on the back. And then you're going to tuck it right up inside that smile. Spaced out just enough. Press it down in there. They look like little rabbit teeth. Okay. All right. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and put the flowers on. So some of you, these flowers can be, they might be a little bit bigger than you're thinking. If they are, just trim them down a little bit. I bend the wire on this hand a little bit. Just kind of give them some detail. This one's just going to go around and hold it. I'm going to take off this one, I think, if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to, but. And then on the end, you can just kind of curl it or cut it off. I think I'm just going to curl it. Some little pliers here. I'm just kind of decoratively curling this. So I'm just going to lay that right across his chest. I'm going to put a little bit of glue, not a lot, but just a little bit of glue. Remember, the hand's going to hold here. And this one, it just cups around here like that. Like it's like both of his arms are holding him. Yep, like that. So I'm going to hold him in place just a little bit right here. Not a lot, because this part shows. We don't want it to be overly overbearing a little bit. So I'm going to let that. And when you press it down, it goes through the fur on a lot of it. And then I'm just going to press that in there. And then I'm just going to let this come around here. Right there. Let that hold it. Then I'm going to put my bright spring on my tag. And then let that, hang that from a branch. And then I believe we are all done. Just let this dry for a second. I'm going to put that hand over, hold it right there. And the nice thing about the fur is it can kind of cover over. You don't glue it to it, but if I wanted to cover up that little spot, I could just move that around. Okay, so that should be it. I'm going to write spring on my tag. Where's my marker? There it is. All right. So I'm going to write it the right way, and then I'm going to hang it right around there. Okay, I'm going to elongate the S. Elongate the P. Do I want to capitalize it? No, small r. The rest of them are small r, long I, capital N, and then small g with a long tail. So kind of like that. Okay, so I'm just going to hang that from here. And we are all finished. And there you've got our little Boingo bunny. Once I get this tied on there. And you're all set. Thank you for joining me. And then you're just going to have to manipulate this to make him stand up. And then sometimes you even have to fluff up the fur around him. And then you're just going to manipulate the feet and the tabs of the feet and the body weight. Like that. And you can kind of just, and you could also make him sit down on like a little chair. You can make his hand hang from anything if you'd like. So, all right, and you're all set. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.